For thousands of years, people around the world have been fermenting foods and reaping the benefits. Sauerkraut is just one of many foods that introduce healthy microorganisms into our bodies. Miso, yogurt, and kimchi are others.
The benefits of probiotics are that you are enhancing your gut flora. So we all have a certain amount of our immune system in our gut. And if you enhance that gut flora, you are making that multiply. So the benefits of eating a probiotic are that you're actually eating foods that have been fermented and that are high in probiotics, and they will help you to maintain that good gut health. So what we have here is a regular green cabbage. This one is a local cabbage grown up here in Cunha, which is right outside Eva Beach. I'm going to cut this for our sauerkraut and also for the kimchi. But I wanted to show you here that we have the little core. I am a no waste person, so I do not like to waste anything. So I'm going to cut that core out and just set it aside for a second. Now when you're cutting for your kimchi and your sauerkraut, you're going to want to make sure that you at least have enough surface area for those microbes to start to collect on. So I like my sauerkraut a little bit thinner, so I'll cut my sauerkraut a little bit thinner, and then when I'm going to cut the cabbage for the kimchi, I like that a little chunkier. You can cut it completely to your own style. So I'm just going to set that aside, and I wanted to show you, you can use the core here. It is just a very solid chunk, but I just cut that a little thinner. And then I dare you to find it in your kimchi, because you can just mix that right in. So I'm going to just slice that thin, and that way it will sort of ferment at the same value that everything else does. I'm just going to get another bowl here, and we will go ahead and put our chopped cabbage in there. So this is regular Pa'akai Hawaiian salt. I am going to usually, per head of cabbage, you usually salt about 1 tablespoon. So I just keep my tablespoon here in the jar. So we didn't use a whole head, about half of it, so I'm going to use about half of a teaspoon. And then the next step is really, really fun. We're going to go ahead and get in there with our hands, and we're going to massage it. So you really want to massage this for probably 3 to maybe even 5 minutes, depending on how much cabbage you have. And what you're really trying to do there is you're trying to get the salt into the cabbage, and it's going to start to draw out some of that water that's naturally in the cabbage. So we're going to pop over here to some that I've already done. I love to talk about when you are actually massaging this. You see how much water we actually got out of there? That is going to be our brine. So the trick to making good sauerkraut and good kimchi is that you have a nice saltwater brine that can cover all of your cabbage. So when people are in here and they're doing their massages, when we're doing workshops, I like to tell people to listen. Listen to the cabbage. It's going to talk back to you. It's going to do a little squeak, and you're going to start to hear when those membranes on the inside start to break down and release all of their juices. So one more time, I pull all the cabbage to the side. Just want to see if I'm going to have enough juice, and it looks like we're ready to go. So the next step,
Terri is from Nebraska. Part of her family were some of the first homesteaders there. Like her grandmother, she is a passionate fermenter of foods.
I think I fell in love with preserving as a child when I first went into my grandmother's root cellar. It was the scariest place ever. She had all kinds of jars on little shelves in there, but there was also a lot of bugs and spiders and stuff, and it was very dark and cold, and I was afraid to be down there. But the stuff that she would pull out of there was the most delicious food. We would get apple cider from her, and everything that she grew in her garden she would preserve. And I just remember being very, very intrigued by that. Okay, so now I'm going to add some caraway seeds to mine. I am of Eastern European descent, and when I learned how to make this from grandmother, she always added caraway seeds. So I'm going to add some caraway seeds to that, and then I'll just need to mix them around a little bit. The caraway is going to ferment along with your cabbage, which is such a good probiotic. This is an awesome way to make a probiotic at home. We're ready. The caraway seeds have been mixed around. I'm now going to put them in my jar. So the next step is just to fully pack your jar. So you want to put as much cabbage, I think this whole thing will fit, into the jar as possible. And I was talking about the health benefits of making your own probiotics. This is going to ferment, and as it ferments, it is going to develop a lot of those really good microbes that your gut just absolutely loves. So the key to doing this properly is to keep everything underneath this water brine so it ferments properly. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the last little bit of this in here, and I really want to make sure that I get all of that good water and brine in there. It's actually a saltwater mix, so we call it a brine. And I'm going to take all of that, and I am basically ready to put this in my dark place. So I want to make sure that all of this is underneath the water. So you can see here that the water has risen up and it's now covering all of the cabbage. That's because we did such a good job. The next step is to weight that down. So you want to keep all of that weighted down with one of these baggies. This is probably the easiest. They make some really fancy weights nowadays. I've seen people put jars in there. But for our purposes, we're just going to use a little baggie that you see I've tucked around the edges, and then we're going to use water as our weight. So I'm just going to dump a little bit of water in there. I don't need much. I really just need it to make sure that it holds that down. So if you can see now, there's enough water in here to use as a weight, and it's going to be able to hold that in place as it ferments, and you won't need to touch it at all. So we're completely finished with this. Make sure you get a good zip on your Ziploc, because you don't want that water to go in there and dilute the nice sour crispiness that you're developing as you're fermenting. And so one of the things that I do is I cover it with a paper towel. You can use any kind of cloth that is breathable. I do that mostly just to keep the bugs out. And then I put a rubber band on there. And okay, so I'll put this in a nice cool, dark place, and we're gonna ferment this for probably, I'll start tasting it after 4 to 5 days. And then when it gets to the nice sour, crispy taste that I like, I'll transfer it, I'll put a regular lid onto it, and I'll transfer it into the fridge. And it should keep in the fridge for many, many months if you can keep it that long.
Mahalo for watching our show. We appreciate your kokua and attention. Mahalo nui to Terri Langley, YNI Intermediate, and the Ka'ivi Coalition. Aloha, ahui ho, malama Hawaii.